If I had a break for every time I hear myself giving excuses or hear and heard from women I work with, I probably would have enough to build a house. Not a small one, a huge one. But most importantly, I wouldn't have been able to recognize them. And I definitely wouldn't have been here sharing this with you. So let me save you some time and a lot of mental emotional pain. Excuses aren't random, right? They are your conditioning and your self-limiting beliefs, your default patterns playing on rinse and repeat. And if you feel like you're going in circles, stuck in the same cycle, not where you're supposed to be in life by now, right? Then this is your moment. Not the moment to push harder going in the same direction, but to sit and be honest with yourself. Because what you're about to uncover today in this video has a lot of power for you to discover from within. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the most common excuses that I hear that a lot of women experience that is keeping you stuck, how to immediately recognize them, because without awareness, you will probably repeat it over and over, and how to break them so you become the woman of your dreams, the one that holds, that nurtures, and live life fully. The only requirement is that you have to be brutally honest with yourself. And don't worry, I'm gonna sit here right by your side. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Baita and I help women in service break their hidden pattern when it comes to their health, work, relationship, wealth, and mental habits that is keeping them from reaching their goals and potential, expand their capacity, and build the life that they deserve without burning out. Before we go deeper, right, I want you to have this visualization. If you can close your eyes. If you're driving, don't do that and say that Baita said it. You can pause it later and imagine, right? So now imagine yourself waking up feeling so good that your sleep actually went well. There's no rush, your body feels so good, you don't feel tightness in your muscles. You have plenty of time where you can sip your coffee slowly, stretching and breathing and just enjoying the morning and being so grateful that you woke up that day. You start your work, you arrange your meetings, you meet your clients, the responsibility, all the things that we do as women in service, right? But this time, things are different. You speak up, you're clear in your mind, so you don't overthink things and ruminate. You complete your tasks without overwhelming your physical mind and your body. And when something triggers you, you don't spiral, you just stay grounded. So now, here's the real question. Do you actually think this is possible? What is stopping you from living it right now? I don't want you to just say surface level answers. What is the first thing that comes to your mind? Because that right there is your pattern. That right there is your conditioning. And that right there is the reason your life, your everyday feels the same. Week after week, months after months, and years after years. It is not to say that you are stuck. It is not to say that you are incapable. It's simply to say that you have become predictable. And I know this because I spent 15 years working in hospital environments where we need to work long shifts, we work night shifts, there's sleep interruption, there's disturbances, there's constant stress, and slowly everything started to shift, right? Not in the way that I wanted. My energy, my motivation, my bigger vision for life, it all started to fade out. And the moment I wanted to chase my dreams, right, the more I found myself giving excuses. I don't have time, I don't have enough money, I am just way too exhausted with all of these shifts going on, right? And at some point, I realized something that was very, very uncomfortable. Every sentence that came out from my mouth sounded like a complaint. And every time someone who loves me pointed that out, right, I started to be defensive. I gave them all of the reasons why I cannot do what I intend to do. And the more this happened, the more I understood something. I was giving excuses. And later on, I realized another thing. Excuses aren't really the problem. They are simply just the layer on the outside. Like a beautiful cover, like covering an onion that was spoiled with purplish skin on the outside. So instead of fighting your excuses, let's just decode them, right? Let's turn your excuses into your edges, because I don't want you to live a mediocre life, because by the time you are 40, 50, you're going to regret it, right? So let's start with the first and foremost excuse that I hear most. I don't have time. Let me ask you something, right? Do you have time to scroll? Do you have time to sit with all the conversation that actually drain you? Do you have time to stay in patterns that don't move life forward mentally, physically, emotionally? If you said yes to all of those, then it is not time that is the issue. It is the priority that hides behind this excuse. The real meaning of I don't have time is simply I don't feel safe stepping out into bigger version of myself. So instead of saying I don't have time, say this: I am the kind of person who makes time because my life matters. I matter. I make time because my health is non-negotiable. I make time because I'm becoming a woman who follows through. I make time because I am worthy. Excuse number 2 that I hear most: I don't have money. Again, let's just be in a space where it is simply self-reflection without any judgment. But you must be honest with yourself, right? Where is your money going? Is it going to temporary comfort? Is it going to validation? Or is it going to coping mechanisms, right? Because here's something that a lot of us don't even know. If you're already investing, the question is, why are you investing in the wrong things? Traveling when you are actually financially not fit. Replacing food for emotional void instead of making healthy meals from your kitchen, which are much more friendlier in terms of money. Adapting coping mechanisms that don't really serve your higher purpose. Let's just be honest here. If you're already investing in the misaligned action, why is it so hard for us to invest the same amount of money that allows you to expand, that allows you to be the version of yourself who you want to be, who your soul actually craves to be so much? It's not just about spending, it's about investment. Are we investing in ourselves, right? So instead of saying I don't have money, why not say this: I invest in becoming the woman I am meant to be, or I invest in resources that I need so that I deserve to be the woman that deserves every good thing in her life, right? So these are the common excuses that I often hear that keeps a lot of women stuck. But there are obviously a lot of other excuses too. But if you find yourself in positions where you can't really seem to get the root cause of why these excuses are showing up, right? Let's get into the steps of how to eradicate your excuses that become your edges. Step 1, upgrade your pattern, right? Don't just name these excuses because you already know your excuses, right? You already predicted your patterns. Maybe it's been there for days and months, and since you have already seen the pattern, you already know that you procrastinate when things matter, you overwork when time is not even enough, and you withdraw when you show up, right? When you feel like someone is seeing you, especially like if you're making content and all that, you allow yourself to be seen, right? And that can be scary. But if you stop yourself from being seen by procrastinating, we don't bring enough value to people around us. You can simply dissect this moment, right? You can ask yourself, is it that people around me that's making me feel this way, or the environment that requires me to shrink, or am I trying to please people? By dissecting it this way, right, it allows you to self-reflect and move out of procrastination to a little bit more disciplined self. Step number 2, decode your identity. right? Your identity has to be tied into all these little micro habits and reactions that you always have. For example, if let's say you're someone who says, I always start but I never finish. This was something that I struggled myself. Why not? You take the tiny bit that you can, like maybe 30 minutes of workout, right? So every time you reach 20 minutes and you feel like, I just want to give up, and you don't want to push the last 10 minutes, right? That is procrastination as well. So what can you do to build more self-trust? You can go through all these 30 minutes and say that I am the kind of person who, when she starts something, she ends it, and she ends it strong. That is a way of decoding your excuse. So this ties to a person who not consistent, to a person who trusts herself, builds herself up to consistency, and a person who is disciplined. And this is very important because your brain will always act in alignment with who it believes you are. If let's say you identify as a lazy person, obviously your brain will build steps that makes you feel like you are a really lazy person, and do the opposite, and the brain reacts accordingly. Step 3 is to find the root imprint. This is where your background comes in. This is where your childhood comes in. This is where your personal subjective experiences come in. Because we don't live in the same environment, we don't grow up in the same environment, but a lot of us do grow up in same limiting beliefs. This step is not to blame, but to understand where these excuses stem from, right? So maybe, for example, you can ask yourself, when was the first time I ever felt this way? Right? You're trying to get the time frame. Who did I have to be to feel accepted and to feel safe? Right? What was rewarded when I was perfect? What was I being criticized for? Right? If, for example, if let's say you were praised for being perfect or the high scorer, meaning that you literally learn that you cannot be imperfect and the lowest scorer because that doesn't please people around you, especially your caretakers, right? Your parents. So you avoid even starting unless you think that you can actually do it perfectly. If you were often criticized, you find it hard to be seen. If you often are the strong one, you always overwork and don't find time to rest or relax. Step number 4, disrupt this pattern, right? Not just in a physical sense, not just in a mental sense, but overall sense. Awareness alone is simply not enough, although it's a great first point. But excuses doesn't just live in the mind, it lives in the body. When excuses show up, right, it becomes like hesitations, you feel tightness in your body, you feel the urge to scroll, and you feel all kinds of avoidance mechanisms here, right? So simple way is what you can do is adjust your posture. If you're slouching, you might as well sit straight, upright. When your chest is out, your heart chakra is exposed, and you're more open to new things. Or you can simply stand up. It allows you to, bring some circulation back into your limbs. Or you can take 5 slow breaths with longer exhales. It doesn't even have to be deep. It just has to be conscious, because then you are interrupting this autopilot mode in your mind. Or simply move your body. Feel a little bit of movement so you feel grounded. Why? Because you are simply signaling to your body, saying that we are safe now to think differently. And this is huge because you are integrating your mind and your body. So there are less chances for your body and mind to react to uncertainty, to discipline, to consistency. Step 5, build micro evidence, right? Confidence is not just something that is in their mind, right? It is built on evidence. So instead of trying to feel ready, right, you collect proofs. It's almost like, all these scientists have all these data, right? You don't simply believe something that people say just because they're saying it. It has to be backed up with researchers. It has to be backed up with data, right? That is exactly how your body operates too. When you stop giving yourself excuses, you need to do something opposite. Do little things, right? If let's say you say that you are someone who's healthy and someone who deserves everything that is wealthy and abundant and, all of these great things, you need to build small at least. Go for 10 minutes walk a day. right? Day 1, day 2, day 3. Your brain registers this as evidence. So the more you do it, the more you feel that you can trust yourself again. By building this trust, you build your capacity to achieve more. And once you start showing up for yourself, right, your brain simply starts updating, right? And then now it goes, we are actually following through right now. We don't stop halfway. And this is how excuses lose power, by connection, by integrating the mind and the body. Step number 6 is very important if you want to upgrade your standard, right? Replace these excuses with a standard, almost like a KPI for you. Don't just remove these excuses. Replace them with non-negotiable standards. For example, let's say the old you said, I only want to do it when I feel like it. The new one says, I show up even though it feels inconvenient. I show up even though if it is hard. I show up even though if I'm stepping like 1 degree outside of my comfort zone. Or maybe your old self says, I need more time. But your new version says, I make time for what matters to my mental health, to my emotional health, to my physical health. Step 7, expect resistance. Because we are wired to be the same. We are wired to be comfortable. We are wired to resist any change. Do you remember the last time your workplace had upgraded this system and you felt like, oh my god, this system is so annoying, I preferred my old system, That is simply a reaction we give as humans. When you understand the nature of this, right, you don't really fall for this as a huge problem. You learn to move with it. Resistance simply means that you are stepping outside of the old identity while you're building the new identity. So instead of avoiding it, overthinking it, ruminating over it, waiting for it to go away, bury your head down like the ostrich, They literally call this the ostrich effect. You need to learn to move from it. Step 8 is to tie this to your purpose. Goals are pretty much external, right? A lot of our goals, right? It's pretty vague and external. Lose weight, grow business, be consistent. But purpose is very internal. I want to live in this body that feels great. I want to be able to feel powerful and lead my life and not react to every single thing that, seem to be around me. I want to become the version of me that my younger self would be so proud of. This purpose sustains you. Instead of asking, how do I replace my excuses, right? Try making them your edge, right? So what if these excuses are actually trying to protect you, because you're becoming someone you're not comfortable with yet, someone you don't know yet, someone who doesn't know what the outcome is going to be. And unpredictability is scary. Trust me, more things will be available to you, things that you cannot imagine at the moment when you make your excuses your edges. The question you may be asking is, am I still available to live a life of my dream? And this question alone can liberate you, can change the way you show up for yourself. And this changes your energy. And when you change your energy, you change your life.